This is Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. I'm your host, Paul Gatling, and we are bringing the University of Central Arkansas to Northwest Arkansas. Each episode, we will talk with leaders, alumni, and innovators driving this region forward, people who are shaping industries and defining what is next for our state. Let's get started. All right, we're back. Welcome to another episode of Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. I'm your host, Paul Gatling, and I am extremely happy to be with you today, and we appreciate you watching and listening. And today I'm glad to have with us our president of the university, Dr. Houston Davis. Looking forward to having a conversation with the person who made this podcast possible and made my job possible through that. So, President Davis, great to see you. Always good to see you.
Paul, always a delight to join you, and thank you for allowing me to participate in the podcast. I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be a great way to be able to get the message out and be able to reach more folks about the good work of the university.
All right, I've got a quick note just for my benefit. I need to get out of the way. Is it President Davis or Houston on this podcast that I should call you?
Oh, goodness gracious. I'd probably it'd be easier to go Houston. It'll feel more like a conversation if we can go there.
Yeah, I'll probably do both, but it's hard for me to address you as anything other than President Davis. But I'll work in some Houstons as we go through. So
I think Houston is a far more interesting person than President Davis. So, and I can promise you, I prefer Houston over President Davis. But
I'm sure.
But I'm honored to play that role too.
Good. Well, again, thrilled for the chance to visit with you today. We're going to talk about UCA, yes, but also we're going to talk about leadership and higher education, and in that scope, what gives you hope about it, what keeps you up at night about higher education, and also why you believe Northwest Arkansas is a big part of UCA's future. So let's get into that. But just for some background for our listeners and our viewers here. You've been president since 2017. When somebody asks you if you see an old buddy from high school and he says, "What exactly does a university president do all day?" What's the answer? What do you tell him?
Yeah, well, first of all, when old buddies from high school ask that, they know way too much about you. So it's going to quickly get into that conversation is going to go sideways. But I do get questioned all the time about what in the world does a president do? And I joke about, and this is when I had title about vice chancellor, this was probably true. Well, my children said, well, that goes in meetings. That's what he does for a living. I think that sometimes it can feel that way. But, when you're president of the university, yes, you are overseeing creating conditions for everything that happens in the classroom, outside the classroom, and partnerships and the like. But I always like to remind everybody that that's just a part of the job. The 24/7 is almost like being a small town mayor. It never ends. A school like UCA, we're highly residential. It is a 24/7, 365-day a year relationship we have in Wadena-Public. It's a little town. So one part educational policy leader and one part small town maker would be my day-to-day.
A day-to-day. So playing off of that, what's something that somebody would be interested to know about you? What is your morning routine? What's the morning routine of the president of the University of Central Arkansas?
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe that I would answer this question because earlier in my life, I was a night owl and I would sleep in every time that I could. But I love being able to get up early and get involved. So I have found that the perfect time to get things done. Wingo Hall is where my office is located. If I can be in here 6:30 or so in the morning and have about an hour and a half, 2 hours running head start in the day, I can get more done that I need to get done on my things to do list in that window in any other time of the day. After that, the calendar takes hold. Everybody likes to think when you're in charge, I'm using quote marks for everybody that may just have the audio of this, that you're in control of the calendar. I'm not. I generally, when that phone dings, I know that it's dinging with enough time for me to get to wherever I'm supposed to be. So lots of times as the day gets going, I mean, the meetings and opportunities to go to things with students I love. But student groups ask me, hey, will you come or will you participate?
Answer's just about always yes, because first of all, what an honor they would want me. I mean, I'm an old man. Dissipate. The morning hours are they're kind of almost the me time to be able to focus on what I need to do most for the university.
Well, I know I'm excited to be on your schedule today, and I work really. You've got a great team, and I'll tout them really quick. I mean, Alicia, your assistant, and Amy, your chief of staff, are. I don't need to tell you, but invaluable to me, and I'm sure you feel the exact same way.
Yeah, we have a high performing leadership team, and certainly a high performing president's office. Not because of the president, it is because of great people like Amy White, the chief of staff, Alicia Crow, who's the administrative assistant, and basically secretary of our board of trusts. They keep trains running on time, and they certainly keep me honest on the checks and balances that they keep with me. We're lucky to have a good team.
All right, so let's back up to earlier in your career. You're from Tennessee. You've worked in Oklahoma. You've worked in Georgia, but before Arkansas, before UCA, kind of what things in your career have shaped your leadership style? What would you point to? What would pop in your head as a person or a thing that has really taken hold of your philosophy of leadership?
Yeah, I was very lucky that early in my career, I knew that I likely was going to stay in higher education. That was sort of born out. I loved policy, public administration. That was my background in terms of discipline. But I kind of loved that place where education and college came together. So I just knew that. But the fortunate opportunity to have several mentors, like Don Parsons, the student affairs VP, Napash, Rich Woda, who is higher education executive for the state of Tennessee for their system of higher ed. Bob Beebe, executive officer of the Tennessee system. Those were people that I think at the beginning of me having the ingredients of thinking I wanted to work in higher education and develop mentorships that allow me. And I think even at that point, I needed to take advantage of the fact that they were wanting to invest in me. So I had leaned into those opportunities. I tell everybody, all my students, I teach leadership and policy classes. One of the most important gifts that they can give to themselves to get committed to new and opportunities when mentors treat themselves. And a lot of those folks, Carson, Corroded, I believe, I mean, those are individuals that shape that. One of the experiences I had that absolutely has shaped just about everything I do as president of a university in this state was I got the opportunity to be a part of a research project. It was an educational needs index project. And we eventually, Southern Governors Association funded it initially. Actually, Bell South funded it initially. Southern Governors Association picked it up from there. Luna Foundation funded our group to do that national. I was able to be a project director. And it was basically looking to gauge educational, economic, growth, demographic pressures that were going on in all 3,140 counties of the appropriates in the U.S. And then a big part of what we're going to run is to go out and understand those rural areas where pressures were showing such that, yes, the educational infrastructure is going to be strained in the future, or there's things demographically that are changing. They're going to fundamentally change the tactics and strategic direction that institutions are in. I've had a lot of different jobs in the 4 states that you mentioned, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Georgia, now Arkansas. But I would say that project and that interest in that research and that interest in looking at all those communities during that period of time early in my career, it helped me that when I got lucky enough to have this opportunity to be able to land at UCA, I mean, there was a little bit of, all right, here's an approach. I mean, to understand not only the immediate 10, 15 county area. Let's understand the 75 counties in Arkansas. Let's understand West Arkansas. Let's understand where are the bordering counties, where are the region. And a lot of that all is grounded in, some of it was research, but a lot of it was just a bit old, get out there, press the flesh and understand communities and meet them where they are and understand what their needs are, what their desires are. And then how do you take the gifts and talents that they can bless you with? And then how do you find somebody who gets in your capital and lives in that region? So I can't say that anything I do at UCA is any much different than theoretically than practically how that needs in the project. That's sort of shaped my career.
Yeah, well, there, like you said, there is a practical approach that you could take with you wherever you happen to be based on your experience. And I'm sure, like you said, you've had a lot of jobs, you've had a lot of options.
Maybe
You
you
could have
may be
led,
saying I can't hold on to a job. I need to worry here.
well, you've had a lot of opportunities to do what you could have led anywhere. Why UCA? What was the moment that made you realize this place is special? This is the place where I want to be. Just kind of take us through the circumstances of how you got connected with this job, and then when you decided this is the job that I want, the place I want to be.
Yeah, no, I think I became aware of the University of Central Arkansas while we were in Oklahoma as the chief academic officer for the Oklahoma system from 2007 to 2012, and then the December role, the chief sister in Jordan University of Technology that asked me to basically play that role for that state 12 through 16, 17 when I came here. I think that because we were in Oklahoma, I was just as kind of a neighboring state, and then University of Central Arkansas was an athletic conference, several of the Oklahoma schools. It was on my radar, and I knew it to be a really high quality institution. I knew it had a great reputation in higher education. But then I also knew there was this thing, Conway, the city of colleges, and you had UCA and Hendrix and Central Baptist College, and then really being so close to being in that Little Rock metropolitan area where there's several other higher education institutions. There was always this in the back of our minds, well, that's a really good school, and it's in an area that just naturally has kind of an entrepreneurial, creative, a sort of a research and stretch yourself sort of mentality just by having all these higher education institutions. And that was the theory. And I think when the job became available, I commented I was not in a position to apply when it first came open. But I commented to search phone managing that, hey, I've been impressed. That's 2016. I said for the last decade or so, I've been watching the work going on there and the kind of that environment over in that town of Conway. That's a good job. I didn't know if I could apply, but I asked them, was it open? And I never really was open to his name search. And I said, there may be some folks that I'd like to refer to get in that pool, because that's a great opportunity. Little did I know that about 5 months later or so after that conversation, I myself got in that pool, and I guess I should think about that I encourage people to compete against me for the job. But as soon as the window opened up, Jenny and I both, we had this already favorable review of UCA, the sense that Conway was a good place to be located. Town and gown was very important. I knew about those vibrant pockets in the state of Arkansas, certainly Northwest Arkansas being one of those, well aware of, and in Oklahoma. So all of that kind of came together, and again, you probably picked up, I believe in education and economics and in what's going on with the demographics in the area. So those things had to be favorable to me. I saw this particular pocket all the way up to, especially in the western pocket of Arkansas, which is one of the more vibrant regions in the U.S. So that needs index research also offended me that this was a good place to be able to not only be dealt a good hand in terms of good foundation, but to be able to inherit something that had not yet reached its potential. So let's continue to grow that. So that's a lot. That's kind of long-winded, but there really was a lot of thought about this place long before I ever thought about applying for it. And that was why I had an impression and reputation UCA had in the general region.
Yeah, well, and I want to stop real quick too. You mentioned your wife, Jenny. She's on campus as well too, right? For people who may not know, she is a UCA faculty member, and I'm sure she, like any big decision that you've been involved in, that was a group decision, and she's a big part of the campus as well.
Yeah, no, it was. We like to joke that it was on me to determine was the University of Central Arkansas a great place. And again, we were early. When I got the job, that was a big decision to, early in a career, early in use for a community, and in a place where you like for a community to stay place for a while. It was on me to be able to look at, is this the right fit professionally? And they kind of left it up to Jenny to see, is Conway in that region of Arkansas, and we already were familiar very much of Arkansas and Mid-South, but was that place to really want to go down personally? And we both agreed that was a great opportunity, let's pursue it. And then I remember when she and I left from our few days of interviews, we drove back to the airport, and our host or
first Texas Airport dropped us off, and then went into Little Rock Airport. We both said the same thing. That was a great experience. I don't know if we're going to get it, but somebody is going to be getting this. We're really happy to know that, and thrilled. Just a couple days later, got the word that we're going to the Chiefs.
Yeah. You mentioned that word reputation now. So I'll ask you now, you're in your 9th academic year. What do you hope that UCA's reputation is? What do you think that we do that we don't get enough credit for? What do you think we should get more credit for?
Yeah, well, I think the thing that we do well, we do get a lot of credit for. Actually, I was in a meeting with other fellow presidents from throughout the state of Arkansas yesterday. I'm looking at the chair and the statewide presidents champs like California subset of that group we got together. And one of the presidents, so 2-year president, we were talking about some things that UCA is doing. They said one of the greatest gifts that UCA has is that you know who you are and you do that exceedingly well. I love that know who you are. You do that exceedingly well. I think that I knew this when I applied for the job, so I want to boast on the culture that was already here. It has nothing to do with Houston. It's everything about ground was laid before we got here. This is a place that does residential experiences very, very that's still very much attuned to what is it that an undergraduate students wanted to get, not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom. That is intentional from the freshman year all the way to senior year. And that's something that I think we've not lost sight of. And as we both have our senior faculty as well as you faculty we're hiring in, that's something that provides. And that might sound like throwaway traits, but in American public higher education and private higher education, those are not things that university teachers still do. When a student comes to us, I hear all the time from parents, and they'll say, my son are having a great experience. And I'll tell them the same thing. I'm not surprised by that. That's what we shoot for, and that's what we expect. But then the next thing is we'll work to do that. This place is never satisfied. We're not to make certain that is a meaningful, seamless, very inclusive student experience that the young person is getting. And we're wanting to make certain that we're never resting in the falls that we find with that. So therefore, the short answer to your question is, if a student is looking for a place where it's big enough to do really meaningful things, and we're proud of the fact that we 10,000 students, roughly 8,000 undergrad, 2,000 graduate, we're kind of a sweet spot to do big things, do meaningful things, invest in those things that we love in the priorities, but not so big that students get lost in the shuffle. And that's what I think to Holly, when he was talking about we know who we are and we do that exceedingly well, I think that's a compliment that he was giving us. And again, I'm proud whenever we have a student come here to tour this campus. You know that they're going to have a good experience and be impressed. Then it's just a matter of the right fit for them. And if they come here, we're going to stay. We don't see a lot of students that come here and decide this is not place when they transfer out. We're proud of that. Proud of the fact that we get some transfers from university to do from community colleges. That's something that you don't find in that gender education. And a lot of that is, students that are like the students that they're looking for. We deliver on it. Let's see who pays for a night.
Yeah, well, I can underscore that with, the Rogers Mayor, Greg Hines. He's a friend of mine, and we've talked, and his daughter is a UCA student, and we've talked about her and her experience there. And she went down there. His other daughters went to the U of A. He's a U of A grad, but their daughter wanted to go to UCA to be a school teacher. Well, she determined early on that she wanted to switch and do something else, but she didn't leave UCA. She loved the campus, loved the people. They've taken great care of her through her, transition through that. And she's, I believe, pre-dental hygiene. And so, yeah, that kind of underscores your point. When students go there, if they may have a hiccup or a change of plans, there are a lot of other things that are in play to keep them there other than just their academic pursuit. Like you say, it's a small community, as you put it, and you're the mayor. So, well, let's talk about, Northwest Arkansas. I think you and I both are definitely in alignment that UCA needs to be a bigger part of the story here. And what was the moment that you said, okay, we need to plant a flag up there. We need to move on Northwest Arkansas. Why is it critical that UCA raise its brand and its visibility in this part of the state?
Yeah, well, I think there were a couple. Maybe the light bulb went off. It was dimly lit and a little bit more, and then brightly lit. And what in the world do I mean with that? I mean, I knew when I started in January of 17 that, again, my background is measuring things and doing demographic research. I knew about the growth in Northwest Arkansas. I knew that UCA already we get students every single year from all 75 counties, and we graduate alums that go back to all 75 counties. So I knew that we already had reach. I knew that we already were covering the map. I knew that we already had reputation that reached in that area. So that's the dimwit of that. But probably a little bit more to that, like a couple of years in, I really did start seeing that we were a natural complement to opportunities, especially if the student was in position to be being rested. So I mean, and a lot of this, I'll use the example just like in work. I mean, University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, Kennesaw State. I mean, those are the examples of schools where they're usually not going after the same student. They're looking for the right things. And I knew that in Northwest Arkansas, we had great relationship. Well, Charles and Christine Beanie. Good relationships, and but there's a space that UCA occupies where we're comprehensive. We're a regional comprehensive university. We do different things in those two institutions. So we should, for any student that is in the conversation up there, we need to find a way to make certain that they're aware of what UCA has to offer. We need to find the ability to be able to connect up with stories and success that students from that area I've had on our campus and then alums in that area. And then the brighter the vol came is when I realized that we got over 3,000 alumni in the area, and a lot of them active with the university. It's not like we have to introduce a lot of people in Northwest Arkansas University of Arkansas, the Northwest Arkansas. They already know UCA. I mean, they know it from the work that all those alumni, and especially a lot of them are young professionals. They're big parts of the movement, the excitement, the energy that's going on there. But we need to make certain that people know that, hey, this is the work of folks that were graduates of our university, and we need to be able to tell that story. We need to find out how we can be of service to them. There's in higher ed, you got teaching, research, and service, and that's a free leg to the stool. Just about everything that any post-secondary institution does, it broadly falls into those buckets. Yeah, we need to be thinking about how are we seen as being an innovative campus that thinks about it. We've got, if you have assets, we've got capabilities, we've got the wherewithal to be able to be assistants in promoting community. This overall quality of life, we need to be rendered seconds, and not only those alums, but others that will want to know those sort of extension services for the new economy. That's the way I think about it. In the opens all speaker, what can we direct to be of service on that region? We know that we got all those vehicles already built for people that believe in what making an impact we see has made in their life, and they know that we should say. So once that sort of critical mass became clear to me, I said, yeah, we need to make certain with the flag. It needs to be about awareness for attracting more students, but mainly it needs to be about making certain folks know that UCA wakes up every single day thinking about how to be a part of meeting the grand challenges of the state of Arkansas, and particularly on next certain in that region, that we're thinking about, well, if we had an actual fit in a conversation about some challenge that region is trying to meet, you need to be willing to raise our hand and say, hey, you're going to do fun work. That was how you are a steward of place. That's how you make certain that you really are making the greatest impact you can under the region, under state, and beyond the state. And that happens by and then I'll selfishly, I'll put a plug here. It also is why we were very patient in finding the right person to be our lead there, find the right person that be the ambassador, to open those doors, to be the one start those conversations, and then know that there's wind in their sail of being able to continue this conversation as easy. And that person, oh yeah, we really we're delighted to be able to have you join us. And we've already seen, I mean, just in the last year or so, I mean, that we've made more progress on what we're hoping you do. Come to thinking about reach, think about awareness, and then all of those dim light bulbs that I described very thinking about that.
Well, I can tell you, it's been. I'm not overstating this when I say it's been a life-changing move for me to change careers and join the University of Central Arkansas. I think I said it when the first time I met you and we had a conversation. You know, as a native Arkansan and born and raised here, I did not go to the University of Central Arkansas, but I know that UCA is a brand name in Arkansas, the same way that Baptist Health is a brand name, or Nabholz, or Arvest, or Walmart. I think UCA is a known factor. However, there was an opportunity to build more relationships and foster existing relationships and just create more visibility in this part of the state, where a lot of people have moved and now lived who are not from this part of not from Arkansas, period. So that to me is where there is a great opportunity to put our brand and our offerings and everything UCA in front of parents or potential supporters or civic leaders who did not grow up here. Like, I grew up here, so I might take it for granted. But it's been a lot of fun. I started, for people who may be listening and aren't aware, started in July 2024 after a long career at the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal, and was so pleased to be connected with this opportunity to work with President Davis and my boss, the Vice President of Advancement, Dr. Mary Lackey, and everyone that I work with remotely. But when I do travel to Conway, just an incredible team at UCA. And I've heard you say more than once, and I've started saying it myself, we don't want to be a best kept secret in any regard about what we're doing as far as our academic success and our recruiting success and our fundraising success and enrollment success and all of that stuff. So I appreciate you saying that. That wasn't part of the conversation I was expecting, but I really do appreciate you saying that. So let's take the best case scenario then. In maybe 3 to 5 years from now, what does full alignment between the University of Central Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas look like? What is it? Is it more students? Is it philanthropy? Is it more partnerships? Or I'm sure a combination of all of those things.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
I think that there's obviously, and you're exactly right about, you've got all these new folks that are going to be, they've got their families, they've got their sons and daughters, their grandsons and daughters that are going to be looking for the right fit for them. And we want to make certain that you are right that UCA has a very, very strong brand in Arkansans. We need to make certain with all these new entrants into being labeled Arkansans, new members of our statewide family, that we're continuing to build awareness of what's going on here. Conway, but also we underreach, and that basically online education, some of those things that we may do in communities who need to make certain embrace. But I think the biggest thing that I've heard, you're 3 to 5 years, we are talking about, and some of this in the context of this keep playing we want to be, it's not cemented yet, but we'll get pretty close to that, is for UCA to be known as a campus of innovation. And what out of there, as not necessarily just here, but because our campus can extend all sorts of parts. Our greatest asset are our people, our greatest asset are the programs that they represent. But to be a place that our public, and especially those individuals
think about economic development, workforce, kind of innovation of entrepreneurship, that we're a place that they know. Uh, and as I think about, we already have that reputation in the simple part of the state. We need to make certain as we go forward 3-5 years from now, that we're only sensible out of time when people are thinking about, well, who can help us? When it's time to gather, it's time to be around the table, it's time to think about, well, what are the assets do the same focus all here in the global region that might deal with the system or what puts in. I would hope that we have a lot more people in this Arkansas area that would immediately have us on the short list that, you know what, UCA did X with a group to work with, they did Y with company to work with. I saw what they were able to put it up, but that makes a difference. We should approach. If we can get to that point, then you're not the best step seeker. You're a well-known, trusted resource. And I think that to me, I think that, again, it shouldn't be a secret that we, have students from all 75 counties and have alumni go back to all 75 counties. We should think about sort of the extension services of what we do for the state also has the ability, focus. You can't be all things to all people, but in a focused sort of way, people to reach all 75 counties. And it's our working sort of theory that it's in Northwest Arkansas that we can extend what we already do in this region of the state to the other kind of center. And then you go out 10, 15, I would do various things out of the public president then. I don't know if you've got that much trail in the fire. But I would hope that the story would be that, yes, I mean, UCA really earned that reputation in the same way it has in the Central part of the state.
I love that you said when you described UCA as an innovation campus of innovation, not just here, because I still get that question a lot. People ask me what my job is and what are you doing, and they'll say, "Is UCA going to open a satellite campus up here? Are you guys opening a campus? Are you doing this up here?" And I think my answer has evolved into just a shoulder shrug and say, "You never know. You never know what we're going to do up here, do you?"
Yeah,
You like that answer?
Let the rumor mill run. Let's let them imagine. I can tell everybody that who's listening in on this or watching. When Paul and I had the opportunity to sit down and talk about what we were trying to do and what they're talking about, there was sort of a list of what we imagined to be the goals. But I told the new man interview, I said, I hope that once we get to the 36 mark of your work, that we'll pull out that list. And I hope that we laugh at how limited our view was and how basic we were, because we'll realize that, wow, we here saw them so short. We've made so much work in conversations. And I've still got that list.
I do have that list, absolutely.
I moved something piled off that desk behind me. But I'll look forward to. I think that you don't know until you're there. You don't know until you're in the room. And that'll be a brilliant that happens. I mean, you got to embed yourself. You've got to. It's not just you. It's who of our dean, who of our chairs, who of our outreach folks, who of our enrollment services professionals, who of our economic development, full of government relations. But these people need to be there, just in time sort of work. And from those conversations, from that work, will likely become the things that in 3 to 5 years, well, you know what? We never would have imagined it started then. But look what we've done. I have no doubt that we have far exceeded the whole on.
Yeah, it is exciting to think about, and a lot of things are exciting to think about up here in the Northwest Arkansas lens. And I've learned to never discount any idea or any thought or any rumor that I hear. So that kind of plays into that narrative where we fit in as well. I don't discount anything. So I want to go back to what you mentioned a little bit ago, that you teach. I mean, you're one of the few university presidents who actually teaches a class while running an institution. Why is that important to you? What do you get out of that?
Well, one thing is it's what I got with this industry to begin with to do. I mean, to do my research and my teaching. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, you don't just give it up when you move into the big office, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of my happy place anyway. I thoroughly enjoy and it is rare. I mean that a
president, teacher of record, not co-teaching, not having a bunch of people come in and do your teaching. But yeah, I've taught a class every term that I've been here, except for that very first semester in the spring of 17. I teach at least one class that's in our PhD in leadership program. That's always in the fall, or it's always in fall. And then I've always taught a class that's medication for policy papers class for students that are at national scholarship versus football. I mean, I love being able to do that. In both of those cases, a lot of those are individuals that want to continue their higher education, and or they're individuals that may be in healthcare and may be in nonprofit and do some of their sector of education. They're all going to be active members of the community, and all going to be reviewed on now the standard and how they their views, their influence, and promoting a quality of life usually based on them. So it's really it's an honor to get to work with, and yeah, I probably teach them something that they keep me there in my future. It really is. And that's why I'm being conscious. I think the other thing is, and I do encourage all of my colleagues at Preston, and it's not to co-teach, it's not to do it to somebody, it's teach. I mean, take a class on it, because that to me, the proof. My dad used to talk about, Sonny boy, every once in a while you need to eat your own dog food. I think everybody that is president of the university should, be, they need to teach on that learning management system. They need to be reminded that putting together a class from scratch, they need to be reminded that, although it's a different kind of work, grading papers and keeping track of, I can promise you I've got a bunch of papers from Wednesday of this week that I've got to get turned around to my students before I get Sunday night. And it doesn't matter that it's homecoming week. I've got to get that done. So they've got them before they wake up on Monday noon. I think that's good for presidents to do, and they don't have to do it every semester. That's just my personal preference. But I think it's very important because it's the greatest way that I get reminded about the quality of our outreach. It's almost like I've got a focus group on all the time. So I know how are our students feeling, things that will come down from the administration or things that will come up from their college or their department. They're not shy. They certainly, I think they could care less on president things. They just know that Houston Davis teaching their class. And I think them having that kind of access to me is an interesting thing too, for them to be able to almost, feel like they can give decent feedback. And then hopefully I fit that in my unique role. President University didn't like me.
Yeah, it is unique, at least in my experience with higher education. I thought it was very unique when I first heard that. Would your students say that Dr. Davis grades on a curve?
I think, here's what they would report. I am a stickler for good life. It doesn't matter whether it's an undergraduate class or a graduate class. I think that that they would, if there's, I don't think it would be a complaint. I think they would say, okay, conceptually, whatever the framework is for the theory, the principle, whatever we're talking about, if you don't write it up well, he's going to get you. So I think that's, if there be any complaint. But above all else, one thing, I'm a process-oriented person. I believe in process. And that's true in a lot of facets of my life. When I am teaching and teaching concepts, me, process, it's trying us and going, it's your toolbox. How are you utilizing the tool that you're taking, but if you learn it, I apply it. So as long as students are able to apply that knowledge or apply that conceptual toolkit they're giving, I generally improve fair on what's grading, but I want them to work through that process and don't just call out a problem and state your head, state your claim, what's going to be the solution. If they're doing that, they're going to be fine. As long as they write it up. And I think that's my mom was an English teacher. Jenny is an English teacher. I think I couldn't be far away from all of my writing has been corrected pretty much my whole life.
Right. Our mothers are in common. My mother is an English teacher as well, retired school teacher, and a proud graduate of the University of Central Arkansas in 1968, whatever it was called, the State College. Yeah, she did it right. Yeah, she was. So, Well, that you said the university classroom is your happy place, and you've been in this higher education realm for a long time, and you like process. Well, right now there's a lot of processes in the higher education world that are noisy. Let's say there's a lot of noise around higher education. The cost of attendance is going to college worth it? Is that somewhere I need to be? All of those things. From where you sit, what's overblown about all of those narratives, and what is maybe has some truth to those narratives. Separate the fact from the fiction.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the biggest barriers, and I think this would be true any president of any type of institution you might be interviewing about, is the myths and misconceptions about cost of post-secondary education are far overblown compared to where it actually is. I think that it's very easy, and YouTube had to you hear about these stories of people with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Those stories are usually heavily influenced by an elite private school that, yes, it does have a $100,000 a year all-in cost of attendance, and if somebody chose to borrow with that, yeah, they're probably already bragged up a lot. Yeah, but that's not. I mean, I think about, let's think about Arkansas, and actually my colleagues at these other campuses. Anybody in that region, if they attend an NLAC, they attend UCA, or they attend University of Arkansas, it is a very rewarding path to a high quality, and that means very good bad. I think that we love to be able to look at the measurements of where debt is. I mean, somebody graduates from the University of Central Arkansas. We're thrilled that we're almost $14,000 more from average for a school of our type, which is considerably less than any of those horror stories that you're in these Rumston and Bison knowledge. And the reality is that by saying that's my money, and it is if you're $4,000 than selling in London. So when we get to that in a second, though, how we'll try to change the narrative around that. But I think that a lot of folks hear those multiple $100,000 stories that's seen. I would put that 1,000 there. A lot of people with you, if that person went out and bought a car, on a car lane people and and most people will be like, yeah, that's just what you do. Well, that's a declining asset. It's not worth it. We know that if someone gets a degree on the University of Central Arkansas, their return on invested goes positive by the 6th year in form. Every year, 7 through 3, they're rated. That's what accumulates $1 million a year in the size. That to me that's the best investment you can make yourself. So that we know to mean all those facts. So when we go back to what we didn't try to for a family that might still say, okay, fine, UCA, that's what the average debt for somebody after 40 years. What are you doing about? We started our UCA Connection program 2 cycles ago. We're already there. 13 Arkansas household in the first 2 years that they've been in UCA. But they leave, say not that they leave. Any Arkansas high school graduate in the last 2 years, this is work in place here. If their family makes $100,000 below, they can come to UCA on debt-free path. And what we're doing is we're working to make certain. Part of the reason to choose to work on daybreak for our program is we were making a commitment as well that we were going to help them to be able to claim what was starting reading. We were amazed at how many students would come to UCA and go to a bunch of other higher education institutions. It was very confusing trying to get access to the publish. Just filling out the FAFSA, you get the strange view of that process, and no wonder they get it. And if they were a first-generation college student and their household never done that, they probably didn't even click a button beyond that. It's confused. Same sort of thing that Arkansas Chatwin did. A lot of support from the state of Arkansas through the lot of the scholarship program. A lot of the students here and in other campuses weren't going through and understand the process we do that. So our commitment, so much signal they didn't do hardly use program. We help them to make certain that they're able to do, and whatever that unmet need with that who've done that, we're going to bridge that gap for the appropriate. Again, it should not have to borrow without credit card link doesn't need for tuition fees for this year. We feel like, and it's a part of what we do, it's part of our broader kind of quality improvement program here at our this year. That's something that we're doing. We see that as the way we'll start pulling that average of future graduate classes down. I'd love, of course, that look like 35 years from now. I'd love folks to look on and say, you know what, if he pulled that back, I think he's 75%. For the use, what do you see? That's the goal. So define.
Yeah.
Someone academically, and we don't admit everybody. I mean, last couple of years, we've had 2,000 students and above, both in my last few years in freshman classes. That's been significant. So far as they come to freshman classes in the state. But we also have record numbers of students that we're not. We're not going to walk away from quality, but academically, somebody sees UCA as the right fit for their academic notice and their inspiration, and do not like finances or gap immersion, that achieve understood. So, UCA commitment has not changed. The narrative, perceptions are, I can't afford this, well, I can't find anybody that have for doing it, but done that. Or we felt like the UCA program, we could maybe change that again. Over 1,300 Arkansas households have benefited from that in the first 2 years. That's going to be really exciting. So, 45 years, how many families have lived just in that first half decade?
Yeah, there is so many good things to talk about at UCA, and from my perspective up here, I talk about three things a lot, and one is our aviation academy. Two, as you mentioned, our freshman enrollment year after year is the second largest among universities in Arkansas. And then the UCA commitment. It's a life-changing program. And when we announced it was before I joined UCA, but when we announced it, I think there are several debt-free pathway programs in Arkansas now, but I don't think there were any 2 years ago when this was announced. I mean, this was UCA. This was our program. This was our program that we developed as an industry-leading program. And so very, very proud of that. And then also when we, recently we formed our Northwest Arkansas Advisory Council. And you came up for that inaugural meeting, and all of those members were aware of the UCA commitment program and proud of it, and proud when their friends asked them about, you went to UCA, right? Did you see this UCA commitment program? And it's a big point of pride. I mean, it's obviously life-changing for those families, but it's a big point of pride for people who work at UCA and for people who have a degree from UCA, I think.
Yeah, and I always start my grandmother would say, good pride and bad pride, son. It's good pride, what we're doing here. And I, in particular, got a lot of friends at Presidents and Chancellors, and a lot of them, they're here to do down that out of different resources. And they'll do unbacks like our actual scholarships that we'll all run the last down years. We're just utilizing your knowledge in a wide way, and to basically tell them in process that to do that work over 7 or 8 years. Most of my friends that are president chancellor are saying, yeah, we're not going to do that. That's too much work. I'm proud of the fact that we built a program that pays different departments, meaning these families. But I'm also really proud of the fact that you have invited me to advise a lot of individuals with the issues from their information. These Fitch, S&P, are the three primary duty on higher education. Moody's has now, for the last 3 years of the rating practice on UCA, kept us stable, positive outlook. A lot of that, they pointed to our stewardship work, from our allow work there. They've also talked about things like UCA can make programs in the launch that they still allow in the institution that is to keep gains that allow us to do the resources in the program, like the aviation package and some we're in College of Science and Engineering. I think Moody's sees that we're really good stewards of what we've been given. We're able to be able to invest that and have a multiplier effect on that. As opposed to, like my dad used to say, don't eat your seed corn. We certainly don't need to do anything spinning ourselves in the deficit. We're spending ourselves in the deficit of negative mental state. So proud of the fact. Grandma Prize, good fun. UCA commitment made a huge difference, but we've really worked hard position in the University of Arkansas, not just in Alabama, Arkansas. Among regional comprehensive universities in the southeastern part of the U.S., we know the work position, we know that to the rating agencies in a very, very, very competitive strive to institutions. And again, it's taken a lot of work to get there, and it's taken a lot of work to stay there.
All right. We've talked about UCA. We've talked about Northwest Arkansas. We've talked about higher education. We're going to talk about Houston Davis for 1 minute here. I've got my questions here that I think people are dying to know.
Right there. Right there. You just lost all of your viewers.
We'll see. We'll let the analytics decide what people tune into or tune out. All right, coffee or sweet tea?
Oh goodness. Sweet tea. Yeah. Part of the sweet tea.
You're a music guy. What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Oh wow. Best concert I've ever been to? Well, all right. Probably best, and it was one of my earliest. Guns N' Roses Pyramid in Memphis, but that wasn't the kicker. Although, I mean, they put on a great show. It was like about 2.5 hours, and that was during a time where Axl was leaving stage early. Like he collected the foot on the show. But Soundgarden opened for me.
Okay, I was going to ask you if this is with Metallica or not, but so no Metallica.
Soundgarden opened. GNR Amber. It was. First of all, revelation. First of all, man, Soundgarden. I was not familiar with them. We went that night. They were amazing. When that show, that was a great concert. Goodness, so many things. Bonnaroo, Coachella, like that. Yeah, we love when we use it. Just anything that's live music is live, but to be us to lead there and say that's the best we've ever seen. And I don't know how you ever met that. You always feel in the moment, but probably my favorite memorable concert.
Most underrated Arkansas town?
Oh, wow. Boy, I could offend a lot. Let me tell you one here recently, and it rolled over revelation. Jenny and I had an opportunity to go over this hike and bring in there. This answer. We were really impressed. That town is really cool restaurants. It's kind of a cool vibe. We love hiking and trekking. That's one of the ways we spend a lot of our time. A lot of long distance hikes. You're ready to do Washita Trail to Humboldt, and then all the way up to Oklahoma and back. The Pascop River Trail. And with Nina, we were that was our hub. But that trip on Nina really impressed us. So that one probably first to come to mind because that was just here recent. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait to get back there. That was the first time I did it.
Okay. If you were to give a TED Talk tomorrow, what is something you could do a presentation on with zero preparation?
Wow. Probably higher education and the economy. It might not be the most exciting topic, but I think especially to talk about to be able to talk about the need for any degree beyond a high school diploma and how that gives you utilities and possibilities. As a university president, I don't ever tell a high school graduates that they have to come to university. What I tell them is, you guys do something beyond a high school diploma. Some of them, that's going to be vocation. That's some of them college, some of them from university. Some of that's going to be go to the military path, where they're going to pick up a lot of great features and certification and skills. Either way, and something beyond that high school diploma, because what that does is it just opens up possibilities. You don't just have to go with the flow. You can start to get that flow. So probably if someone said, hey, Houston, you need to give X number of minutes of TED Talk in a few minutes, I would kick that and I would think about what are my 3 best points in my book.
Perfect. All right. Well, listen, President Davis, I've been looking forward to this conversation with you for a while. So really appreciate your time. I want to end with this because we do have a lot of alumni who are listening, and a lot of alumni from Northwest Arkansas who are listening. You've got a direct voice to those people right now. What do you want them to know about their alma mater, the University of Central Arkansas?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to be very proud of the university. I think that they already know that our university has a reputation. They know that our university made a difference in their life. I guarantee you, as they're hearing me talk about this, it wasn't a transactional relationship that they'll describe. It's not just that they got a degree from UCA. It's that they developed great friendships and great relationships that continued, and it's probably influenced who they are
as a young professional that is receiving professional career training high. I hope that they would be encouraged to know, they already know that UCA is pretty special. I hope they would be encouraged to know that we're not just putting on a reception up in Northwest Arkansas and then going back home, that we're really thinking about what is it that we're going to do across 365 days and how can we be of service to them. I think that our Northwest Arkansas Council, right, it was not just asking about what the university needed to do there, but how could we help them in what they were steering you to know that for influence. How could we start some dialogue about, is there any way the university would give assistance? It's not just that you were educated by us, we want you to know that we're going to be committed to, again, be the service component of what's going to be in the ecosystem. And so think big thoughts about how we might get them up. So again, pride, I hope that they would feel that, they know that. I think that a gratefulness that we're thinking about how can we extend that reach, send that message, and then know that this despite the pandemic is going, that's certain that we are better to where that earlier question about 3 to 5 years from now. A lot of people out there think of UCA as an asset. That, hey, yeah, we can fall home. They deliver. They are good at what they do. Seeing the ability to fall through, but it's safe. And that to me is where peace.
Fantastic. All right. Great place to end it. Again, President Davis, the University of Central Arkansas. Always enjoy visiting with you. Really appreciate your time. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Appreciate you, sir. Go Bears.
All right. Great. All right. That's been the latest edition of Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. I'm Paul Gatling. Until next time, go Bears. That's it for this episode of Central to NWA, a UCA podcast. I'm Paul Gatling, Senior Director of Northwest Arkansas Engagement for the University of Central Arkansas. Be sure to subscribe to the show and follow UCA on all the appropriate social media. I'll see you next time on Central to NWA.